is clear to me. How come that Africa that has so many resources, water, solar energy, how come that currently it is the poorest continent in the world?
What can African nations do to end the Western control established upon them decades ago? Instead of starting a war, African nations considered gaining independence. What else could be a better pain for the West than witnessing Africa becoming independent? Once it becomes independent, it can't be controlled by the West. The first step was to launch a new currency to break free from the French colonial currency. But who was the secret figure behind initiating this move? Let's find out. Several West African nations are taking bold steps to break away from the French-backed CFA franc, signaling a shift in their monetary strategies. This collective decision has been spurred by the desire to sever long-standing ties with France and foster regional economic growth. The countries spearheading this change include Benin, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo. Their joint initiative is establishing a new common currency, the ECO, which promises to reduce business costs and dismantle trade barriers within the region. The essence of this transition lies in the aspiration for greater economic independence. By bidding farewell to the CFA francs, these nations aim to chart their course towards self-reliance and regional integration. This move is not merely a symbolic departure from a currency linked to a former colonial power, but a pragmatic approach to enhancing economic prospects. The decision to peg the ECO to the euro, with the Banque de France ensuring its convertibility, highlights a careful balance between autonomy and international connectivity. Are African nations doing it to decrease France's control of African nations? The decision of multiple African nations to transition away from the French-backed CFA franc and embrace the new ECO is undeniably a strategic move to decrease French control in Africa. This bold initiative is rooted in pursuing enhanced economic independence and greater regional integration, aiming to disentangle these nations from historical ties with France. The ECO pegged to the euro and was backed by the Banque de France for convertibility, symbolizing a concerted effort to reshape the financial landscape in favor of African autonomy. While this shift in currency represents a significant departure from the past, France says it is crucial to acknowledge that certain aspects of French influence will persist. But how did France control African nations when African nations were using French currency? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The era when African nations utilized the French currency, specifically the CFA franc, was a period of notable French control over these nations' economic and monetary policies. The creation of the CFA franc in 1945 was a deliberate move by France to sustain economic dominance over its former African colonies. Originally tied to the French franc and later to the euro, the CFA franc system provided a mechanism through which France could assert influence over ostensibly independent African countries. One key instrument of control was the requirement that African central banks deposit a significant portion of their foreign currency reserves with France. This practice granted France substantial leverage over the monetary policies of these nations, effectively shaping their economic courses. The close connection between the CFA franc and the French currency allowed France to maintain a stronghold on the economic affairs of its former colonies, despite their nominal independence. Furthermore, French influence extended into the governance structures of these nations through representation in the bodies of the Central Bank of the West African Economic Monetary Union, WEIMU. This presence reinforced and institutionalized French control over crucial decision-making processes related to monetary matters within the region. While recent modifications, such as renaming the currency to ECO and removing some overt controls have occurred, France's financial sway over these African nations persists. Cooperative agreements have allowed for the reintroduction of French banking representatives, and daily reporting requirements on central bank transactions to France underscore the enduring influence. Despite outward appearances of change, these measures indicate that, while some visible controls may have been lifted, French involvement in the economic affairs of these African nations remains a complex and enduring reality. What plans do African nations have to weaken France's currency grip on Africa?
Parce que cette lutte que nous avons aujourd'hui contre le terrorisme ne se fait pas uniquement par les armes, mais également par le développement.
African nations are pursuing a strategic plan to weaken France's grip on their economies by introducing a new currency, the ECO. This transformative shift involves abandoning the French-backed CFA franc in favor of the ECO, designed to serve as a common currency among these nations. By pegging the ECO to the euro and securing a convertibility guarantee from the Banque de France, the African nations aim to reduce their economic dependency on France while fostering regional integration. The strategic introduction of the ECO reflects a collective determination among African nations to chart a course toward greater economic independence. By breaking away from the French-backed currency, these nations are actively reshaping their financial foundations, emphasizing self-sufficiency and regional collaboration. The success of this plan hinges on the effective implementation of the ECO and the ability of these nations to navigate the complexities of the transition, thereby weakening France's historical economic grip on the African continent. But what factors motivated several West African nations, including Burkina Faso, to consider transitioning away from the French-backed CFA franc? Several key factors have motivated West African nations, including Burkina Faso, to contemplate transitioning away from the French-backed CFA franc. One primary motivation is the desire for greater economic independence. These nations perceive the use of the CFA franc, which has historical ties to France, as a symbol of economic dependency. By transitioning to a new currency, such as the ECO, they aim to assert control over their monetary policies and reduce reliance on former colonial powers. The transition is driven by a collective aspiration to enhance regional prosperity and foster economic integration among West African nations. Establishing a common currency is seen as a means to facilitate trade, lower transaction costs, and strengthen regional economic ties. This move aligns with broader efforts to create a more cohesive and self-reliant economic community. Using a common currency, like the ECO, is expected to reduce trade barriers among participating nations. This, in turn, is anticipated to stimulate economic growth by promoting smoother cross-border transactions and encouraging increased trade activities within the West African region. The CFA franc has long been associated with colonialism's historical legacy. Transitioning away from this currency symbolizes breaking free from colonial influence's economic and cultural remnants. Adopting a new currency represents a step towards redefining these nations' economic narratives in the post-colonial era. Public sentiment plays a crucial role in this transition. Moving away from the CFA franc is often framed as a means to reclaim national sovereignty and assert control over economic decision-making. It reflects a response to public expectations for leaders to take steps towards greater autonomy and self-determination in economic matters. How will the change of currency affect the economies of West African countries? The transition to the ECO in West African countries is poised to significantly impact their economies. Adopting the ECO as a common currency within the economic community of West African states ECOWAS is expected to streamline trade processes, lower transaction costs, and simplify payments. The move towards a unified currency aims to enhance economic integration among member countries, fostering increased regional trade and collaboration. Introducing a single currency could be pivotal in influencing economic growth and stability across West African nations. While the ECO may serve as a protective measure against monetary shocks and disruptions, there are concerns about how variations in economic structures and production capacities among member countries might impact the overall success of this transition. Striking a balance to ensure stability and growth remains a key consideration. The shift away from the French-backed CFA franc to the ECO represents a concerted effort by West African nations to diminish France's historical economic control. This symbolic move signifies a tangible step towards greater economic independence and regional integration. The success of the transition to the ECO hinges on meeting specific criteria such as managing budget deficits, controlling inflation rates, adhering to central bank financing limits, and ensuring the availability of sufficient foreign reserves. These criteria serve as benchmarks for member countries, and addressing disparities among them will be crucial for a smooth and effective implementation of the new currency. And what is the timeline for the currency change in West African countries? The timeline for the currency change in West African countries involves transitioning from the French-backed CFA franc to the new common currency, the ECO. The official announcement of this change was made on July 1st by 8 West African nations, namely Benin, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo. This marked a crucial step in the long-standing pursuit of establishing a new currency in the region. The anticipated launch of the ECO is set to take place at the end of the year. This timeline underlines the commitment of these West African nations to expedite the transition process and usher in a new era of economic independence. The adoption of the ECO is expected to bring about positive changes, including easing business costs, reducing trade barriers, and enhancing prosperity for the more than 380 million people residing in the region. Establishing a new currency has been a topic of discussion and consideration for years, and the concrete steps taken by these countries reflect a concerted effort to move away from the historical ties associated with the CFA franc. As the launch date approaches, the successful implementation of the ECO will be closely watched. It has the potential to reshape the economic landscape of West Africa and mark a significant milestone in the pursuit of greater regional integration and autonomy. However, the question is how establishing the ECO as a common currency will contribute to the economic goals of the West African nations involved. Establishing the ECO as a common currency contributes significantly to the West African nations' economic goals in several ways. The adoption of the ECO streamlines trade transactions within the region, contributing to the economic goals by facilitating easier and more efficient cross-border trade. A common currency eliminates the need for constant currency conversions, reducing transaction costs and administrative burdens for businesses engaged in regional trade. The ECO is designed to lower transaction costs associated with cross-border commerce. As businesses and individuals within the West African region transact in a shared currency, the expenses related to currency exchanges, hedging, and fluctuations are minimized. This reduction in transaction costs is a direct benefit to economic actors and contributes to the overall efficiency of the regional economy. The ECO catalyzes enhanced economic integration among West African nations. The common currency fosters a sense of economic unity, encouraging collaboration and coordination in various economic sectors. This integration is crucial for achieving economies of scale, attracting foreign investment, and promoting the development of a robust and interconnected regional market. A common currency like the ECO is expected to stimulate economic growth by creating a more stable and predictable economic environment. Reducing currency-related uncertainties and risks encourages domestic and foreign investment, increasing economic activities, job creation, and overall prosperity. The ECO allows for greater coordination of monetary policies among the participating nations. This coordination can lead to a more harmonized approach to managing inflation, interest rates, and other monetary variables, contributing to regional macroeconomic stability. The ability to collectively respond to economic challenges strengthens the resilience of the participating nations. By adopting the ECO, West African nations reduce their dependence on foreign currencies, especially those backed by former colonial powers. This shift aligns with the economic goals of achieving greater autonomy and reducing external influence. It reflects a commitment to shaping economic policies more tailored to the specific needs and priorities of the West African region. Will Western's control of Africa end after this? The transition to a new currency, the ECO, in West African countries represents a significant step towards reducing Western control. Specifically, moving away from the French-backed CFA franc is a strategic move aimed at increasing economic independence and fostering regional integration. The anticipated benefits of the ECO, such as easing business costs, reducing trade barriers, and enhancing prosperity for the more than 380 million people in the region, highlight the transformative nature of this shift. Particularly, what nations have contributed to it. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have emerged as key contributors to the transition to a new currency and the establishment of the Alliance of Sahel states. Among them, Burkina Faso has played a particularly significant role, demonstrating courage and proactive leadership in challenging existing monetary systems and historical ties with former colonial powers, notably France. Burkina Faso's commitment to this transformative process is evident in its involvement in signing the Liptako-Gourma Charter, a regional cooperation agreement. Additionally, Burkina Faso has expressed a strong dedication to establishing a common currency called Sahel, showcasing a forward-thinking approach towards enhancing regional cooperation and economic independence. This commitment goes hand in hand with the broader initiative to break away from agreements with France and actively work towards creating a new currency. The decision to challenge established norms and work towards a new currency is a bold and courageous step taken by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. It signifies their collective effort to reclaim monetary sovereignty and reduce external influence in the region. By actively participating in establishing the Alliance of Sahel States and expressing commitment to a new common currency, these nations are contributing to a broader movement to foster economic autonomy and regional cooperation in West Africa. Mostly, the nations with problems with Western control are those controlled by military leaders. On top of the list is Ibrahim Traoré. But how does Ibrahim Traoré contribute to withdrawing from French currency and making a new currency? Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who has led Burkina Faso since the September 2022 coup, has been a pivotal figure in the country's push for a major shift, particularly in its departure from ECOWAS and the potential abandonment of the CFA franc. Traoré has played a crucial role in signaling a break from what is perceived as oppressive ties, expressing a strong commitment to severing all bonds that he characterizes as a form of slavery. In a recent interview, Traoré openly suggested the possibility of Burkina Faso abandoning the CFA franc, marking a significant departure from the established monetary system. This move is aligned with the broader objective of reclaiming monetary sovereignty and reducing external influence in the region. The emphasis on breaking free from perceived oppressions underscores Burkina Faso's determination under Traoré's leadership to reshape its economic and political course. Furthermore, Burkina Faso, under Traoré's leadership, has taken bold steps such as an immediate exit from ECOWAS and the formation of the Alliance of Sahel States (ASS) alongside Mali and Niger. This strategic alliance represents a collective effort to break away from existing regional structures and assert greater autonomy. Traoré's decisions and leadership are instrumental in shaping the economic and political landscape of West Africa, signaling a transformative period as Burkina Faso actively seeks to redefine its place in the region and reduce external influences. You must now wonder why France eagerly wants to keep its control over Africa. If African nations try this hard, France has also tried to maintain control. France's historical ties to Africa, particularly through colonialism and the establishment of the CFA franc, have created a complex relationship. Initially introduced in 1945, the CFA franc has been a key instrument through which France maintained economic influence over its former colonies. This currency arrangement, tied to the French franc and later the euro, gave France significant control over the monetary policies of these African nations. There are several reasons for France's interest in maintaining influence in Africa. Africa is rich in natural resources, which have historically played a crucial role in global trade and economic development. French companies, backed by economic ties with African nations, have benefited from access to these resources, creating economic advantages for France. Africa holds strategic geopolitical importance, both in terms of resources and its position in global affairs. By maintaining influence in African countries, France can secure strategic partnerships and alliances, reinforcing its role on the international stage. France's historical ties with its former colonies have created persistent cultural, political, and economic linkages. There may be a desire to maintain these connections for reasons related to historical identity, shared languages, and diplomatic relationships. Instability in some African nations may raise security concerns for France. By maintaining influence, France could contribute to stability and security in the region, which, in turn, may protect its economic interests and geopolitical positioning. Is it necessary for African nations to become economically independent right now? Financial independence allows African nations greater control over their economic policies, resources, and development strategies. It provides an opportunity to shape economic trajectories that align with national priorities and aspirations. Financial independence can reduce external influence, particularly from former colonial powers or other international entities. It allows nations to assert autonomy in decision-making, trade negotiations, and economic partnerships. Financial independence can be a catalyst for stronger regional integration among African nations. Countries can collectively achieve shared prosperity and stability by collaborating on economic policies, currencies, and trade agreements. Financial independence provides the flexibility to diversify economies, moving beyond reliance on a narrow range of commodities. This diversification is crucial for long-term, sustainable development, reducing vulnerability to global economic fluctuations. Many African nations have a history of colonization, which has left enduring economic and social legacies. Pursuing financial independence can be viewed as a means to address historical injustices and reshape economic systems that reflect the needs and interests of African populations. Financial independence allows African nations to position themselves more competitively globally. It enables them to negotiate trade agreements, attract foreign investment on their terms, and actively participate in the global economy. So, later or sooner, this decision was necessary to make. Do you think Africa made the right choice? What would happen if France or any other Western nation's control of Africa ended? In the comments section, let us know if Africa will prosper without the West. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.